Most people believe influence is something powerful people do to others, but the uncomfortable truth is this: influence only works when someone is easy to influence, and most people are. Not because they're stupid, not because they're weak, but because they never trained their internal stability. They react faster than they think. They adapt faster than they evaluate. And the moment someone slightly stronger enters the conversation, they start adjusting automatically. Influence begins with small psychological openings, a confident tone, a strong opinion, a little pressure in someone's voice. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts, and instead of observing the pressure, most people respond to it immediately. They nod too quickly, they agree too early, they explain themselves too much, and every one of those reactions reveals something. Your internal position is unstable. You don't lose influence in dramatic moments. You lose it in subtle ones. In the second where someone interrupts you and you stop talking. In the moment where someone challenges your opinion and you start softening your language. In the moment where someone raises their certainty and you lower yours. None of these moments feel important individually, but together they build a pattern, and people read patterns very quickly. The more you adapt to the energy of others, the easier you become to guide, redirect, and control. Not necessarily maliciously. Influence isn't always manipulation. Sometimes people simply follow the path of least resistance, and if you constantly move first to maintain comfort, you become that path. This is why some people dominate conversations without raising their voice. They don't rush to react. They don't immediately defend their position. They don't change their tone because someone else does. Their stability creates friction, and friction makes influence harder. Easy to influence people chase harmony. Stable people maintain structure. When someone slightly pushes your opinion and you instantly adjust it, you signal uncertainty. When someone expresses strong confidence and you reduce yours, you signal dependency. And once those signals appear, the dynamic shifts. The other person doesn't even need to try controlling the conversation anymore. Your reactions do the work for them. Influence is rarely taken. It is usually surrendered. Here's where the real problem begins. Most people think influence comes from speaking well. It doesn't. Influence comes from not moving too quickly. The person who reacts slower controls the direction of the interaction. But easy-to-influence people react instantly. The moment someone expresses a strong opinion, they start adjusting their own position to keep the atmosphere comfortable. They soften their tone. They add extra explanations. They try to make their ideas sound less confrontational. And without realizing it, they give the other person psychological ground. Influence is deeply connected to certainty. Not loud certainty, but calm certainty. When someone senses that your opinion changes under mild pressure, they stop treating your position as solid. They start treating it as negotiable. And once your position becomes negotiable, your influence drops immediately. This is why some people can guide an entire conversation without saying much. They don't chase agreement. They don't rush to convince. They simply stay stable while others adjust around them. Most people misunderstand this dynamic and believe influence requires persuasion. But persuasion is usually a sign that influence is already weak. The more you try to convince, the more you reveal that your position depends on the other person's approval. People who are hard to influence behave differently. When someone pushes their opinion, they pause before responding. When someone raises emotional intensity, they lower their own pace instead of matching it. When someone tries to rush a decision, they slow the conversation down. These small behaviors create resistance, and resistance forces others to adapt. Easy-to-influence people remove that resistance automatically. They answer quickly, they agree quickly, they react emotionally. And every fast reaction transfers control of the interaction to someone else. The paradox is simple. The more you try to maintain harmony in every conversation, the more influence you lose inside it. Another reason people become easy to influence is their constant need to be understood. The moment someone disagrees with them, they rush to explain their position in greater detail. They add more arguments, more context, more emotional emphasis. And while it may feel like strength, it actually weakens their position. because over-explaining signals uncertainty. The more words you use to defend your point, the more it appears that your point needs protection. Strong influence works differently. It relies on clarity, not volume. People who are hard to influence don't rush to defend every sentence. They state their position once, clearly, and then they stop. They let the silence do the work. Silence creates psychological weight. It forces the other person to process what was said instead of pushing the conversation forward immediately. But easy-to-influence people fear silence. The moment a pause appears, they try to fill it. They talk more, clarify more, soften their tone, sometimes even start correcting their own argument before anyone challenges it. That behavior signals internal instability. And when someone senses instability, influence naturally shifts toward them. There is also a deeper dynamic at play. People who are easy to influence are constantly scanning the room for approval. They adjust their language based on facial expressions. They change their tone based on reactions. They read the atmosphere and adapt themselves to fit it. At first glance, this may look like social intelligence, but in reality, it often becomes social dependence. Because when your position constantly adjusts to the reactions of others, your internal frame disappears, and the person with the strongest frame automatically leads the interaction. Influence is not just about words, it is about emotional gravity. The person who remains stable while others adjust creates the center of the conversation, and conversations naturally organize themselves around the center. The problem for most people is that they never realize how often they give that center away. Not because someone takes it from them, but because they surrender it through constant adjustment. Here is the uncomfortable truth. People who are hard to influence are not louder, smarter, or more aggressive. They are simply more stable. Their opinions don't move every time the atmosphere shifts. Their tone doesn't change because someone else becomes more confident, and their decisions don't depend on immediate approval. Most influence is lost because people react emotionally to pressure. The moment someone questions them, they feel the need to justify. The moment someone speaks with strong certainty, they feel the need to adjust. The moment someone challenges their perspective, they rush to defend it. But every rushed reaction transfers control to the other person. True influence works in the opposite direction. The person with influence slows the interaction down. They don't rush to prove themselves, they don't chase agreement, and they don't feel uncomfortable when someone disagrees. That calm resistance creates something powerful, psychological weight. When someone senses that your position does not collapse under mild pressure, the dynamic shifts immediately. They stop pushing as hard. They begin measuring their words more carefully, and sometimes they even start adjusting their own position without realizing it. Not because you forced them, but because your stability made influence difficult. This is why strong communicators rarely try to dominate a conversation. They simply refuse to be moved too easily. They listen without rushing to respond. They answer without over-explaining, and they remain calm even when the other person becomes more intense. The moment you stop reacting automatically, your influence increases. Because influence is not about controlling people, it's about controlling your own internal frame. And the person who holds their frame the longest usually leads the interaction. People who are easy to influence react quickly. People who carry influence respond slowly, and that difference changes everything.